Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tigers Baseball Podcast. The playoff-bound Detroit Tigers. Let's get into this. I am stoked. I'm feeling good, even after a weekend series where Detroit dropped 2 out of 3 to Chicago. To finish the year 10-3 against Chicago, Jim Bowden, Boston Red Sox announcers. Not 12-1, 10-3. I'll get into that in a minute. It still bothers me. Injury report real quick. Not much to say. Sawyer Gipson-Long is supposed to begin a throwing program next week, which will be good for him. So a little bit of depth in the minor league system there. Honestly, depending on how well he pitches, he might take Casey Mize's spot in the rotation next year. We'll look into that at some other point because with all the things that have gone on this year, you just never know. So we'll leave it at that. All right. So there's a few things on my mind tonight, and we'll get to this in ordinum. So I'm listening to the front office on Sirius XM this morning, and Jim Bowden and Jim Duquette are interviewing Scott Braun, the host of the Foul Territory podcast. And Jim Bowden said, and I quote, "The reason the Detroit Tigers and the Kansas City Royals are in the playoffs is because they both went 12-1 against the Chicago White Sox." Again, get your numbers straight, sir. At that point in time, Detroit was 10-2 against the White Sox. They had not played their last game against the White Sox until 3 o'clock this afternoon. Secondly, he made the comment of Seattle, with the best pitching rotation in the league, is sitting at home. Well, guess what? 5 out of 6 times this year, Detroit beat that best pitching rotation. So you can take your best pitching rotation and stuff it, because Detroit beat them 5 out of 6 times, twice in Seattle. Swept them in Detroit. Not only that, but they swept them a week later. So go ahead. Mock my Detroit Tigers. Go ahead. Say that they shouldn't be in the playoffs because because they went 12-1 against the White Sox, which they didn't do. Say that the best pitching rotation in all of baseball is sitting at home. Okay, it is. But guess what? The playoff team beat the best pitching rotation in baseball 5 out of 6 times. And the one time that they didn't beat them is because of a defensive mistake in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs and the bases loaded. And Detroit was on the verge of beating them. They were up 3-1 on that best pitching rotation in baseball. Don't disrespect my boys. They earned where they're at. It's not their fault that the White Sox are garbage. It's not their fault that the White Sox are going to be garbage next year and the year after that. It's not Kansas City's fault. It's not Cleveland's fault. The fact of the matter is, 3 out of the 6 wild playoff teams are coming from the Central Division, and you can't stomach that because your precious Eastern teams aren't in. Your precious Tampa Bay Rays and your precious Toronto Blue Jays. It's the Kansas City Royals and the Detroit Tigers. It's bad enough that you picked the Twins to win the division and they didn't. So now you got to sit there and bang on the Tigers and the Royals for doing better than the Twins. Nothing against the Cleveland Guardians. Well, somebody has to win the division, so that division winner is going to get in. That division winner has a better record than the Houston Astros, who've won the West 7 out of 8 times, who had the first round bye last year and 2 years ago. Since this whole thing started with the first round bye, who won the World Series 2 years ago. Who took Texas to 7 games last year. Who continuously beats the Yankees in the playoffs. Face it, this is a good division. First through fourth, this is a good division. When you have 4 teams over the 500 mark, it's a good division. Sorry your precious Red Sox aren't in it. Sorry your precious Blue Jays aren't in it. My Tigers are, and I'm proud of it, and they earned that right by beating the Red Sox, by beating the Mariners, by beating the Rays. It's not just 10-3 against the White Sox. It's 5-1 against Tampa. It's 5-1 against Seattle. It's 4-3 against Boston. Tell me that this team shouldn't be in the playoffs because they're 10-3 against the White Sox. It's not our fault that they play in the same division. It's not our fault Jerry Reinsdorf is one of the worst owners in baseball. We can't help that. We play the cards we're dealt. And you know what? We were playoff players with our cards that we got dealt this year. So just deal with it. I'm going to move on now to Houston. Detroit's playing Houston starting on Tuesday. The game starts at 2:32 Eastern Time. There's 4 games on Tuesday. Why is the Detroit-Houston game not in prime time? Are you telling me Kansas City-Baltimore is going to be a better draw? Are you telling me New York and Milwaukee or Atlanta and Milwaukee is going to be a better draw? Have you changed the format now so that it's a 12 o'clock start for one game and then a 2:30 start for the next game and then a 5 o'clock start for the next game and a 7:30 start instead of a 10 o'clock start for the last game? Are you alienating all of your West Coast fans by starting games before they get out of work? How is Tarik Skubal, the Triple Crown winner for pitching this year? For those of you who don't know, that's the lowest earned run average, it's the most strikeouts, and it's the most wins. He has that. He's done that. He is going to win the Cy Young this year. Not Cole Reagans, not Corbin Burns. Your Cy Young winner is going to be in Detroit. So how is he not worth prime time? Are you telling me the Houston market is bigger than Baltimore? Are you telling me the Detroit market is bigger than Kansas City? Are you telling me the Detroit market is bigger than Milwaukee? Now, the Houston market might be smaller than New York or Atlanta. But really? You're going to put an absolutely tired Braves or Mets team, just worn out Braves or Mets team against the Milwaukee Brewers in your primetime game? You're going to put the Kansas City Royals, who were lucky to hold on to the second wild card spot, and the Baltimore Orioles in the primetime game? You're telling me that those four teams have better fan bases and better draws? Atlanta might, New York might, but the Brewers sure don't. The Royals sure don't. The Orioles sure don't. This is Tarik Skubal we're talking about here. This is your Cy Young winner we're talking about here. You're trying to tell me that Tarik Skubal versus Framber Valdez is not prime time worthy? Oh, well, it's the Tigers. So, Houston's going to win that game anyway, and it's going to be a laugher. It's not going to be that good. Let's just put that on, and the first thing, get it out of the way and not have to worry about it till the next day. Yeah. If Detroit wins any game this series, it's going to be with Skubal on the mound. You want to know what Tarik Skubal's line was against Houston when he faced him? 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. I'll say that again. 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. 6 1/3 innings. A big national stage, and you're putting them on at 2:30 in the afternoon. Way to go, MLB. Way to frickin' go, MLB. Just amazing. You guys are class. Absolute class. Rob Manfred, you deserve a gold star for this one. Way to go. Hear, hear, son. Hear, hear. With the tone of this podcast, you would think that I'm not very happy. I actually am. I'm quite happy that we've made the playoffs. I don't know that we're going to get out of the first round, but you know what? One and done is better than none and done. So, and you got to start somewhere. So what's this playoff run going to do for the Tigers? Well, when you win, free agents want to come and play for you. When you win, more fans come out. When you win, you get extra money from Major League Baseball. When you win, national TV games are available to you. So, because Detroit is a playoff team next year, they'll be on TV more. They'll be on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball more. They'll be on Fox's Game of the Week more. FS1, I guess, is what it is now. I don't know. I don't follow baseball on TV because baseball on TV sucks. Especially when you can't see it and the announcers are sitting there talking about what they had for breakfast the other day. Oh, I had bacon and eggs and sausage and French toast. And oh my goodness, there goes another baseball hit by Aaron Judge. That's number 60. Okay. What kind of pitch was it? Who threw it? How many men were on? Anyway, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different mess. Free agents like Alex Bregman, who probably won't end up a Detroit Tiger because Detroit is supposedly their third base problems are solved because of Jace Young and Matt Vierling. so he won't show up. But, there's pitchers out there that might show up. There's bullpen pitchers that might show up, starters. You never know. You just never know. So that's a possibility. And I want to cover, first of all, I want to, so a couple things that happened this week. Jackson Jobe got called up from AAA. He pitched 2 outings. He had a 1/3 of an inning. Well, actually, no, he pitched 1 inning on Thursday. Thursday? Yeah. 1 inning on Thursday, walked a batter, and got around that walk with what should have been a double play, but Trey Sweeney couldn't get the ball out of his glove fast enough. So, yeah, that didn't work out for him. No, that was Wednesday. Sorry, it was Wednesday that he came in against Tampa in the top of the 9th. They had a huge video presentation before as he was coming in from the bullpen and all of that. It was kind of cool. So then he comes in yesterday and goes 3 innings and gives up a couple of and walks a guy and strikes out a couple guys and does okay. To make room for Jackson Jobe, Detroit designated Shelby Miller for assignment. Shelby Miller cleared waivers and was given his unconditional release. So he is no longer a Detroit Tiger. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want to go kind of through the arc of this team, because let's not forget, 5 years ago, this was a 47-win team. They were 47 and 114. The only reason they didn't play game 162 that year was because of thunderstorms in Chicago, and neither team was in the playoffs, so the game didn't really mean anything. Major League Baseball was just like, we're not going to bother with you. Why spend all the time dealing with a rain delay when everybody's got golf reservations on Monday anyway? So they canceled. They just canceled the game. Don't worry about it. Refund the tickets. Whatever. 2020, of course, was just a weird season that we're going to write off because you just can't really call 2020 a true baseball season. Now, I know that's going to annoy the crap out of a lot of Dodgers fans, but let's be realistic. Okay, I'll give you that you won the World Series, but it was a 60-game season. There was really no challenge to it. So Ron Gardenhire retires at the end of 2020, and 2021 comes around. A.J. Hinch gets hired in and hires Chris Fetter as his first hire. And the team goes 77 and 85. And you're thinking, okay, this team's about to turn the corner, because they signed... In the offseason, they signed Javi Baez and they signed Eduardo Rodriguez and a couple of other guys in the bullpen and everything. Andrew Chafin and they did a lot of good things. Actually, Chafin wasn't until 2022. Anyway, 2022 rolls around. Spencer Torkelson is going to be your opening day first baseman. Javi Baez is your opening day shortstop. Let's not forget what 2021 was. 2021, you still had Nico Goodrum on this team. You had Willie Castro on this team. Michael Fulmer was still on this team. So 2022, Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green are supposed to be the young kids that are going to give this team energy, give this team life. Riley Green breaks his foot and then hits a triple off of Garrett Cole. But he didn't know that the foot was broken until after he got to third base. So That happens. 66 and 96 later, 66 wins, 96 losses later, Al Avila is fired. Scott Harris is the new president of baseball operations. AJ Hinch still has his job. Well, now we're stuck with Javier Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez, and their option years are in 2023. Not only that, but the day just before the regular season starts in 2022, Al Avila trades away Isaac Paredes for Austin Meadows. Austin Meadows didn't even play a full season as a Tiger because he had psychological issues. And that's, you know what? That is what it is. You don't mess around with that stuff. So 2023 rolls around. And, oh yeah, as part of 2022, Eduardo Rodriguez has family issues. So 2023 rolls around, and the coolest thing of 2023 was spring training Austin Meadows and Parker Meadows in the same outfield. That was really cool because they're brothers and they'd never gotten a chance to play together before. And that's cool. Now, in 2022, Spencer Torkelson got sent down to the minors and then called back up and had some issues. Last year, Detroit goes 78 and 84. Starting to put it together. And I think they thought that this year's season was going to be last year's season and last year's season was going to be 2022. But because of what happened with Javi Baez and his absolute falling apart, because Eduardo Rodriguez had his issues, because Spencer Torkelson had his issues, because Riley Green broke his foot, because Austin Meadows had his issues. Riley Green doesn't break his foot. Austin Meadows never gets traded from Tampa. That's just the way that it is. So anyway, that all happens. And now this team is in the playoffs. And I think ultimately where this goes is up. It just goes up. It has to. Because if it doesn't, then what did we make all of these moves for? What did we get younger for? There's nobody over the age of 27 years old on that Tigers team. Aside from Kenta Maeda. Nobody. And it just kind of makes you wonder, where does this team go from here? What does this team do from here? So I'm happy to see the Tigers in the playoffs. What is going to happen is this with the podcast. So if Detroit manages to beat Houston 2 out of 3 in Houston, I will do a pod that day, that evening. And I will do then a series wrap-up after every series. After the last game of every series, I'll do a series wrap-up, whether that's just the divisional series or all the way through to the World Series. If Detroit loses to Houston, I'll do a season wrap-up on Sunday. Because at that point, we'll have some things going on from... we'll probably have a postseason, end-of-season press conference and all of that to look at. So that's going to be a thing. Thank you to all of you who are subscribed on YouTube and watch on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. I just want to make throw out a real quick shout to Jeffrey Rainey, who commented on my last podcast. Jeffrey, I would have replied to you but I have not figured out how to do that in YouTube yet. But I do appreciate you listening, especially since you listened all the way from the first podcast until now, this season anyway, and I do appreciate it. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can leave a comment on the YouTube page. You can also get us on Mastodon at TB Podcast at tweezcake.social. Twitter is at Podcast Tigers. You can email the show, tigersbaseballpodcast@gmail.com. It's the world's longest email address, and I'm awful proud of that. Playoff baseball is back in Detroit. Hopefully they can beat Houston, and hopefully they can host Game 3 of the divisional series next week, and we can have an actual playoff home game in Detroit. If not this year, hopefully they do it next year. Thanks for listening, everybody, and go Tigers.